Yo, what is good? Welcome to another hip hop album review. This is part 114. I just did a review on PMD's Shady Business album, maybe like 2 hours ago. If you haven't peeped it, definitely check it out. Throw some comments, show me some love. If you like the album, if you didn't like the album, you know what to do. Just speak your piece on that. But the reason I'm talking about the album that I will be reviewing today, or tonight I should say, is Ice-T's third album, the Iceberg, Freedom of Speech, Just Watch What You Say, released in 1989. Alright? Everybody should know who Ice-T is. I did a review on his second album, Power, which I did. Check it out, it's in my channel somewhere. I did it, I think, like last month, I believe. It was last month that I did it on. You guys want to know who Ice-T is? Just check out that album review. So, right after he released Power, he started recording on this joint right here. He started recording for this album. They released it in 1989. Excuse me. Throughout like the tour, he started doing tours for the Power album. He was actually catching a lot of flack from the media, saying like how his music is very provocative, very vulgar, stuff like that. He couldn't, he was known for like taking off his shirt, just just grind, just shaking, just gyrating and stuff like that, touching himself and stuff like that. And that would cause a lot of uproar, within Democratic, politicians and Republicans too. And one politician that caught, that was catching feelings was Tipper Gore. She was a Democratic politician, which she started. She had her own group called the PRMC, which stands for the Parent Resource Music Center. And what their whole goal was to censor certain music, that had provocative lyrics, that kind of like had misogynistic lyrics towards women, violence, and things like that. And that was to make sure kids didn't get access to that content. And because of that goal is the reason why you see stuff like this. You see this label right here, the Parent Advisory Explicit Content. That group, Tipper Gore and her group, the PRMC, is responsible for this. You know what I'm saying? So, and Ice-T addresses that. You know what I mean? And if I'm not mistaken, I looked it up, but his first album, H.A.P.H, which I still need to get my hands on, was the first hip hop album to gain that that label, that the parental, that it says, but it doesn't say that. It says, I think it says that this album contains explicit rhymes or some shit like that. So, things of that nature. So in this album, he kind of addresses that. All right. So this is what the album looks like. Fucking love the cover of that. One of the most iconic hip hop album covers, in my opinion. Very, very dope. You see a B-boy has a 12-gauge shotgun, double barrel shotgun in his mouth. You got two revolvers, two guns right behind his brain, about to blow his brains out and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Opening the album up. You know what I'm saying? See the album really play. And then this is the label I was talking about from the first album that he has. I think this is the same one it has. Alright, this is what the album looks like in the back. The production is done by Ice-T and Africa Islam, his DJ and his record and his producer. All songs programmed by Africa Islam except for the Iceberg. Programmed by Johnny Sleepy John Rivers. So that's the only producer on the album. Open it up. You see Ice-T chilling his cell phone. You know what I mean? This is before cell phones were really accessible. Cell phones were only available. It was very expensive at the time. If you had a cell phone, you was somebody. Unless you were a lawyer, a politician, or a drug dealer, or an entertainer. Nobody else had cell phones like that. Nobody had a cell phone. It wasn't really accessible like that. And then you see a collage of all the MCs and people that and stuff like that. It's black and white. And then you turn around it's the same thing but in color. You know what I mean? So pretty dope. There's 14 tracks. You know how I get down. I'll go through some of the tracks. Um, I believe there's one, two, I believe there's two singles off the album. Give me 1 second. I apologize. I know I should have done this earlier. Yeah, there's mass singles. Excuse me. There's Lethal Weapon. What You Wanna Do. The Girls Try to Kill Me, and You Played Yourself. All right. Those are 5 singles. All right. You know how I get down. I'm gonna go through some of the tracks and stuff like that. All right. The first track is "Shut Up, Be Happy." It's just a skit. It's just you just hear like it's a PSA. You hear like a government official saying like how it's like pretty much the society's under martial law. You're just saying like just putting people in curfews, stuff like that. After like if you leave the house after 7 p.m. everybody needs to be under curfew. Needs to be in their house at 7 p.m. If you leave outside the house, if you try to leave outside the house, you will get shot and stuff like that. So, and that's what he talks about. That's what he talks about and stuff like that. And then like by the end of the night, by the end of the morning, but when sun rises, you get up, and when the curfew's lifted up, you're supposed to give out your urine samples to the government officials that pick it up in the morning and stuff like that. Things like that. That's what I got from that track right there. Track 2, the Iceberg, is pretty much like a braggadocio track. Just talk about how he just expresses how like he personifies the pimp, that pimp persona that he carries, and he also talks about how how his crew is like the rhyme syndicate, like how he's like they some real niggas, like some real cats, and they all about the girls and stuff like that. Like those talks about like a lot of sexual innuendos in the track and stuff like that. Track 2, the Iceberg. That's how I get from that joint right there. Track 3, Lethal Weapon, pretty dope track. He pretty much talks about how the lethal weapon is your mind. You know what I mean? How the government could take away everything away from you, but one thing they can't take away from you is your mind. So, and what he's saying, like, is, educate yourself. You know what I'm saying? That's one thing they can't take away from you is your education. Which I always tell people, like, yo, please go back to school. Go to school. Go to school, because that's one thing they can't take away from you. They can't take away your thoughts, your train of thought, things of that nature. They can't take that away from you. So, just what you have in your mind, could destroy a lot of shit. It has a lot of power. So that's what I got from that. So that's the lethal weapon that he's talking about. And there is a video. There is a video for that. Track 4, You Played Yourself. Self-explanatory. Just saying like how don't play yourself, man. Like for example, there was a line where he said like you trying to play, you trying to spit game to a girl, but you trying to front being something somebody you're not, and then people see that, and when a girl see that, it's kind of play you. You know what I mean? Like, yo, why you acting like that? Just trying to get into my pants. So you playing yourself. You know what I mean? Everybody can relate to that. Or like you got the MCs like today, like how you got some of these veterans, which kind of pisses me off, where they try to cross over. And they see that it doesn't work for them because they see other artists trying to do that, and they know if they fail miserably, and they play themselves. And he talks about that in that joint. It's kind of like a play onto that. That's what I talk, and that's what he talks about. The song You Played Yourself. Track 5, Pillock House Bag. You Played Yourself was actually the single, so it was actually the last single of the album. Pillock House Bag. Love the beat for this joint right here. That song actually has like a to me it has like that real late 80s, like it sounded like from an 80s action movie, like like those those cop documentaries you would see, like like you see the cops like trying to like they're about to like raid like a drug house or whatever, a crack house, or right now they would call it a trap house. Back then it was called a crack house or whatever. Just like some shit like you about to do some type of mission, and it has like that type of beat. You know what I mean? But anyways, Pillock House Bag is pretty much entails of it's a story of this gang member who his other gang member, his friend, gets killed by another gang member, and so Ice-T and his crew, want to he wants to gain vengeance towards those gang members that killed his friend, and so they gear up and stuff like that, and then when it gets to the nitty gritty, when the shit hits the fan, him and his crew ends up getting killed and stuff like that. And then I just gave the whole story, but that's pretty much what he talked about, and what I got from that is that gang shit, what goes around comes around. You know what I mean? All the dirt that you did, over the years, and then it comes back to you, and then there's no win-win situation with this gang shit, and that's what he talks about. But just just because somebody killed your peoples, yeah, you could kill that person, but it's gonna come out and bite you in the ass. So it's just that's why they always say let the cops handle it, which is the right thing to do. Let's be real. But let's be real. If somebody kills my mom or kills my brother, I'm gonna go after that motherfucker. I don't care who you are. You know what I'm saying? And that's human nature. You know what I mean? Like anybody, I know all you guys watching this would feel the same way. You guys would do the same thing. People will tell you, oh, somebody killed your mom. They'll be like, oh, let the cops handle it. Fuck that. You're gonna go for vengeance, eye for an eye. You know what I'm saying? But in that story, he talks about that's not the right thing to do, because look what happened to me. I ended up getting killed for getting vengeance from my friends. You know what I mean? And plus, you're part of our life. So that's what I got from that joint right there. It's actually one of my favorite tracks off the album. Track 6, The Girl Tried to Kill Me. That's a pretty cool, funny track. Pretty much, the beat is dope. It has that Beastie Boys License to Ill vibe to it. Kind of has the No Sleep Till Brooklyn vibe to it. That's what I got from that joint. It's pretty much sort of about how he meets his girl. He's trying to spit things to his girl. Whatever. He gets with the girl, but this girl actually, is a dominatrix. So she's into the whole BDSM, tying niggas up, throwing wax on him and stuff like that. Start whipping him, pulling out dildos, vibrators, and all that shit. He's not used to that kind of shit. She's pulling out weapons like knives, guns, and shit like that. Yo, she's trying to kill me. You know what I mean? And stuff like it's really funny, but it's crazy too at the same time. And that shit's actually a fetish. It's not really my thing, but to each his own to some people. You know what I mean? But the girls try to kill me. That's what I got from that joint right there. Track 7, Black and Decker. That's just a skit. Pretty much talks about how Ice-T, he's kind of venting with his boys, to his boys and shit like that. He talks about how he hates the fact that the media portrays him as this gang member, that all his rhymes portrays violence and stuff like that, which is the total opposite. Yeah, his stuff is not. To me, what I said about gangster rap, I feel like gangster rap, is self-awareness. It's yeah, it's not positive, but it makes you aware. It makes you aware of stuff, what not to do, and that's what I get from gangster rap. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's entertaining, but better not to do that shit. You know what I mean? And that's what he pretty much talks about. And but the media doesn't see that. They see a young black brother, making all this money on the shit that he's talking about, and people don't. And middle America, baby boomers don't like that shit, so they try to knock him for that. And then that's what he talks about. And he's venting to his peoples about that. And he's like, yo, I wonder what a Black and Decker, the Black and Decker drill, power drill would sound like on top of to drill on top of somebody's head. And then you hear that shit. You hear the power just hitting somebody's head, and you hear the brain matter just splatting out and stuff. It's crazy. Track 8, Hit the Deck. Hit the Deck. Hit the Deck pretty much talks about, you know, just pretty much, you know, dissing wannabe MCs. You know, these MCs that trying to front. You know, these cats that act like they something they're not and stuff like that, and calls them out. That's why I got from the joint Hit the Deck. Track 9. This one's for me. I love that joint right there. He must pretty much talks about, you know, give me 1 second. The song, track 9. This one's for me. He's pretty much talking about, you know, the record labels, the music industry, how it is and shit like that. You know, like how like they try to censor him. You know, he's just trying to like be himself, but they don't want that. They want niggas that, you know, that's like happy-go-lucky. That you know, anybody could like get the record label some income, some record some money, you know, that could give them radio plays so everybody could eat. But he's not about that. He's about, you know, giving to the people. You know, trying to give self-awareness to the people and stuff like that. And there was a line where he defends Professor Griff, because if you guys probably remember, back in the, I think it was like in the late 80s, I think it was like 88, 89, I believe it was like around the time that Public Enemy dropped their second album, It Takes a Nation of Millions. It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back, where he talks about how Jewish people kind of like are all about the money. They fuck everything up and blah blah blah, and you know they ain't about, you know, about nobody but themselves. You know, and it's just how like they just take away money from everybody, especially black people, and especially in the record labels. And you know, if you remember, and he was dissing Leo Cohen, and if you remember, like Public Enemy at one point was part of Def Jam, and Leo Cohen was part of that, and because of that, they were like, nah, they was trying to stay on the record label. So they had to kick out Professor Griff. And so that's why Professor Griff at one point wasn't part of Public Enemy. That's why he started putting out solo albums and stuff like that, like Pawns in the Game and, you know, stuff like that. So, and that's what he talks about, yo, Professor Griff, I got your back. And he addresses that and stuff like that. And that's what I got from that joint right there. Just like the ills, the music industry. Track 10, The Hunted Child, pretty dope track. He pretty much shows about the point of view of a young gang member, a teenager, you know, a YG pretty much, where like there's a story where he killed somebody. You know, like he's selling drugs or whatever, he's putting in work, but then he ended up killing somebody, and because of that, he's on the run from the cops, from the law, and he's scared. He doesn't know what to do, and so like, you know, his face is all over the news, like people are looking for him, and he's just like on the run. He doesn't know what to do but to keep running and running, and that's what I got from this song, The Hunted Child. Pretty cool. Track 11, What You Wanna Do. It's a long ass track. It's about, I think, like 9 minutes long or close to that, and it's a posse cut, and it features the whole Rhyme Syndicate. You know, Donald D, not the Cat, I think his name is Donald. Like I said, Donald D, Ice-T. Lord Finesse at this time wasn't part of. He wasn't part of Rhyme Syndicate yet. I didn't think he joined Rhyme Syndicate until like the 90s. But anyways, it's a posse because it's like 9 minutes long, whatever. And you hear a very young Everlast. He has the same Everlast that's part of House, the lead rapper of House of Pain, and he's part of the song too. Like you hear it very young, and you know, and he came out with an album called, I believe it was Forever Everlasting, which came out in 1990. Very different from his House of Pain stuff. So you know, don't expect House of Pain jump around type of shit. And with this album, you know, with this song, he's actually featured on that joint, so it's very different from his House of Pain stuff. And it's just pretty much like a party track, you know, it's just like braggadocio tracks, you know, oh, I'm the best, rappy rap type shit. And it's pretty cool, Track 12, Freedom of Speech. when I mentioned before, you talked about how talks about Tipper Gore, how like she trying to censor him, and like she started a group called the RPMC, which stands for Resource Parent. No, I'm sorry, Parent Resource Music Center, which like I said, their goal is to censor certain music that pertains provocative lyrics, like misogynistic lyrics, violent lyrics, and stuff, sexual stuff like that, and pretty much Ice-T was like, "Fuck you" to Tipper Gore. Like he pretty much called her out, like, "Yo, you just mad because you ain't getting no dick," and like I'm like, damn, like for 1989, like that's kind of ballsy, because back then, you didn't really hear too many MCs doing that. You know what I mean? Like, and he was with Warner Brother Records at the time, so that's pretty ballsy for him to do that. And he pretty much addresses that, like how the government is trying to censor him and stuff like that. Like, yo, but then it's kind of like these same people that censor me are kind of being hypocrites, because y'all talking about the First Amendment, it's the freedom of speech, but you're trying to censor me, so it's either give or take, and that's what he pretty much talks about with that song. That's freedom of speech. And track 13, Word is Born, My Word is Born, is pretty much is a posse cut with the Rhyme Syndicate again, like I said before, and it's just talking about how you with your boys, and you talk about you tell like your stories, like whether it's like you with a girl, but you kind of exaggerate. Like everybody does that. I do that sometimes too. Like everybody exaggerates and stuff like that, and like to make this story more interesting. You know what I mean? So, and that's pretty much what he does in this track, and the rest of the crew too. And that's pretty much of the album. My thoughts on this album: very dope. It's actually one of my favorite Ice-T albums of all time. One of my favorite albums in the discography. Excuse me. I rarely hear people talk about this album right here, because like when people think of Ice-T, people always think of the OG original Gangsta album, which I have to do a review on, and they always talk about the Home Invasion album, which I will do a review on those eventually. And people tend to skip over this album, and then they talk about the Power album with High Rollers and that shit, but people never talk about this album. You know what I mean? And I think it's because Ice-T kind of went more political. He went more political on this album. I think that kind of turned people off with that. You know what I mean? Because I feel like he was still the same Ice-T, but he had a lot more subject matters to talk about, and I guess people weren't really used to that with Ice-T. He was more political. But this album is a lot more gritty, more darker than his other stuff, like his first two albums, things like that. I highly recommend this album, in my opinion, man. Definitely is out of print, so if you can find it, pick it up. I got it for cheap, for like I think like $5, $4 or $5, I think. I got it at Specs, which is closed down right now. Specs used to be a store that's part of Transworld. Transworld, the big conglomerate that that the big conglomerate company that has like stores like FYE. That I'm pretty sure you guys know about FYE, Suncoast, Coconut, Tower Records, and stuff like that. Specs was actually the sister store of FYE, and so Specs would have like all the used, like they would have like the retail stuff, but they specialized in a lot of used stuff. And I used to have a fucking joy day on that shit. I was like a kid in the candy store in that store. You know what I mean? That shit was like my candy store, because I would find a lot of dope shit, a lot of rare stuff, and this was like one of the albums that I caught, and that's why a lot of my album collection is the way it is, because of that store. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, man, I highly recommend this album. Very slept on, very overlooked. People rarely talk about this album, which is beyond me. And it just so happens it doesn't have the parental advisory explicit content label, which again, it kind of is like, yo, freedom of speech. I can say what the fuck I want, you know what I mean? Just watch what you say. And that's the message I got from this album, man. Just be yourself. Just say what the fuck you want, but there are consequences what you say. So this is the album, and I feel like this album is very relevant to today because you should be able to have this freedom of speech, but you know you see it all the time. People get in trouble when they post certain stuff on Facebook. They end up getting arrested, and some people should know better, because they'll post like stupid shit like, oh, I killed somebody, or they'll post it on YouTube, oh, we just committed some armed robbery, or we posting all this money, but then now you surprised that you get arrested. Like, come on, So there's no such thing as freedom of speech anymore. But yeah, man, definitely check this album out. If you can find it, definitely pick it up. I highly recommend it. And that's it, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed that review. Stay tuned for more videos, more rants, more beat videos. Peace.